General, let me stay with you before I come back to the studio. We know that the Super Tucanos that were bought under the last administration, Nigerians had the hope or the belief, or maybe the assumption, based on what they were told, that the moment those Super Tucanos were brought in, that because of the way they were designed specifically for certain things, that they were going to wipe out insecurity, terrorists and kidnapping, because of the capacity of the Super Tucanos. Well, we have had the 12 Super Tucanos now for several years now, but we still have the same insecurity with us. As much as, although it's not as much as it used to be, but we still have them with us. Speak to us how we're supposed to have maybe deployed, or is there any shortfall somewhere? Let us understand.
Well, there are quite a number of factors. First and foremost, if we are even going to talk about the Super Tucano, and I still make reference to the fact that we have to look at the globalization and the international politics that goes on. Remember, before we were able to get the Super Tucanos, we had to go through a lot of conditions and, deprivation. In fact, some people are of the opinion that the price of the Super Tucanos were exorbitant. Remember, again, human rights conditions and so on and so forth were attached, and it took such a number of years. That is even one. Then secondly, we have the issue of human rights concerns. In this country, we had individuals that even reported the Nigerian government to the United States government and the United Nations and what have you. And so by the time you use such high caliber weapons on the citizen, and that is where, again, the third aspect of the problem it comes from. Bulk of the security challenges that we have are asymmetric. Asymmetric in the sense that the criminals turn to blend with the society. Take, for instance, the Boko Haram terrorists. Unless you see them carrying weapons, you sleep with them. And maybe at a certain point in time, they sleep and go and commit atrocities. Now they mingle with the society. And how can you incur such collateral damages? So, to the credit of the last administration, they had to designate the bandits and kidnappers as terrorists so that they can have the legal leverage to also attack them. But in most instances, you remember some time ago in Suleja, in Niger State, there were allegations that some innocent people were killed, but that was not the only one. There were several other instances. So these are some of the things. You receive a distress call and you decide to, synchronize an aircraft only for you to go there. They are no longer there. You remember what happened in Nasarawa State. But actually, the information the military got was that, the Ansaruddin faction of the Boko Haram were converging. And of course, they saw them through electronic monitoring system, but before you know it, something again happened. So these are some of the reasons. And that is why I talked about security education and empowering the people so that they can be able to report, instances of security breaches so that the military or the security forces can react. And of course, most importantly, is to equip those security forces so that they can react timely. So intelligence is equally key. So these are some of the problems that actually brought about the seemingly slow paces that we've been seeing. But I can assure you, they are doing very well. Not only the Super Tucanos, there are unmanned aerial vehicles here and there that help in reconnaissance and intelligence and directing the troops in dealing with this criminal element. But most importantly, the issue of human intelligence is equally very important. Giving timely and accurate information, and of course, collaborating with each other. Because now, again, and the fourth factor is the issue of good governance. Some of these areas are not easily accessible. So the infrastructural development are not even there. And my greatest fear now, the rainy season is there. It is very difficult for some of the equipment to, reach where these bandits and terrorists or criminal elements are, hiding.
Yes.
So these are the issues that combine to create, the environmental problem, the threat itself, and of course the attitude. And sometimes we had instances where you receive a distress call, you synchronize either patrol or whatever, only for them to be ambushed, because there is this issue of menace of informants that monitor the activities of our troops, our security forces, and disclose such criminal elements. And again, the fifth aspect is the issue, we still go back to the issue of good governance. Now, most of our youth are not employed. Almost, the total population of Nigeria, let's say 200 million, right? So almost 70% of that population, they are youth. Right. What extent have you make provision for the youth so that they will not be part of this criminal element? So
all right,
these
General,
are some of the, and we neglected the traditional rulers and what have you, that they could form part of the solution to security challenges. So the Kano and deployment of military and police sometimes may not necessarily solve these security challenges. We have to explore other options.
There is the issue of concern. Dr. Foyeton mentioned it in passing. We have generals who have seen the war, who have fought at different times across the world and across the continent, who are now chief of every staff, chief of army staff, chief of air staff, chief of naval staff, chief of defense intelligence. These are all generals of the army. In a situation where they have to answer to a retired police officer who has never seen a war, of course, the issue of there's a mandate from the president and commander-in-chief that the national security advisor, every other person should answer to him. But talk to us how that plays out when generals will have to respond or have to, submit to a non-general. How does it work?
Thank you very much. First and foremost, I would like to have a preamble before I answer your question.
All right.
And I think Nigerians up to now, they are still having the hangover of military dictatorship. Otherwise, this issue should not be an issue at all. The military over time, from 2000 to 2015, went through what was called transformation process. And the transformation process started with the Nigerian Army and eventually all the services, including the defense headquarters. The whole essence of it was to subordinate them to, the civilian authority under democratic dispensation, institutional change, doctrine, and what have you. And the greatest mistake actually is that you cannot you cannot transform in isolation with the Nigerian society. We ought to transit from military dictatorship to democratic governance as quickly as possible, way back in 1998 to 1999, because of the number of years of military incursion. We ought to have at that time also reorient the Nigerian society on the nuances of democratic governance, the processes of democratic, the process of democracy, bureaucracy, and what have you. So with that, people ought to have understood that democracy is a government by the people, for the people. Whoever the president deemed fit to be appointed as national security advisor, so be it. And people should understand also, the national security advisor is not a commander, so to speak. So the issue of answering or calling military officers does not even arise. He's the overall coordinator of security activities, and at the same time, particularly the intelligence community. Remember, we have institutions, the National Intelligence Agency, Department of State Services, the Defense Intelligence Services, and of course, custom immigration, even road safety, they have intelligence department. But beyond that, the other non-state actors, take for instance, professional organization, National Union of Transport Workers, and so on, even the Okada, they have contributions to make in terms of security of this nation. So it's the aggregation of all that information, and the one that is being brought that he will coordinate and make sure that he advises the president as at when due.